Here is my cat safety audit for the year, and you will be surprised how many things on this list I have to fix. My name is Francisco, and welcome back to 9 Lives to Live. On this channel, me and my 3 cats, Calypso, Skyfall, and Mr. Muffin, help you improve the lives of your indoor cats. Most cat owners, when they first get a cat, take a look around their house to see if it is pretty safe for their cats. But how often do they go back around and take a look again to see if everything is still safe? If you are like me, you probably don't do that often. And the new year is a great time to do it again, or any other date that is memorable that you can remember to do it at least once a year. Go through your house with a checklist to see if your house is still safe for your cats. Why? Because things are constantly changing in our houses. We get new plants, we get new furniture, things wear down, people bring us gifts, we try new foods. All of these things are potential hazards, and we need to constantly be aware of them. And doing this kind of audit helps you to do that. But before we begin, keep in mind that it's important to know who your cats are. If you have kittens, you're going to have different concerns because of their size, because of their curiosity. But if you have older cats, you probably have different concerns. They are less agile. They don't maintain their balance quite as well. They might be more sensitive to certain foods and so forth. Now, there are many safety issues that concern cats, and many of them are day-to-day things. In this audit, I'm not going to cover the very daily things that you should be aware of, like keeping the toilet seat closed if you have a kitten. This audit is for more general things around your house that you should be attentive to. Number 1, have you brought in any new houseplants? Houseplants can be one of the more toxic elements that you have in your house. On my list, I only have one houseplant, and I've had it for many years. I know it's not toxic, so I'm checking that off the list. But if you have, especially gifts, lilies, poinsettias, this list that I have here, I'm going to include it in the description below so that you can check against that. Now, this is not a comprehensive list, but includes some of the most commonly toxic plants to cats. I will also include a link to a fuller list. Speaking about toxicity, what about your chemicals, your household cleaners, things that you might have in a workshop, old paint that you've used? All of these things need to be kept in a safe place. Cats can be curious and make sure that they cannot open, or they are not interested in opening, the things that you store them in. Some people like to use the kinds of latches they use for toddlers. Those latches can be very useful if your cats are interested in opening cabinets that they should not be opening. If you don't keep these things locked up, go around to every place that you have these things stored and see if anything has been disturbed. It might give you a clue that your cat is poking around in there. I think that I'm okay with that. I've checked, and my cats are not poking around among my solvents and other things. Lastly, on toxicity, are there possibly foods that are toxic to your cats that are not kept in a safe place? I myself like to eat chocolate. Pretty good. Although I know I probably shouldn't. But here is something that I realized. When I started storing my chocolate, I always put it on top of the refrigerator. And when the cats were little, they couldn't get up there. They were just kittens. Now they're bigger and they can get up there. Maybe it's time to move the chocolate to somewhere safer. So I'm going to mark that as something that needs correcting. So consider if you have new foods, if they are still stored in safe places, if you have moved their storage places, if cats can get access to them. I'm going to include here a list of the most common toxic food to cats, and I'll also put that list in the description below in case you want to copy it. I also have a video on toxic candy, and I did this video for Halloween, and I'm going to link it in the description below in case you want to see that video. Next thing on the list is to check ways that your cats could get out of the house. Check your screens. Take a look to see if they are all still sturdy. Are any of them plastic? Could your cats push through it? Are any of them frayed in a way that your cat might be able to get out? Also check your screen doors. The little latch on the screen door sometimes starts to get stiff, or the hinges start to get a little stiff and the door doesn't shut every time you come in and out. This is especially important when you're bringing things in and you don't have time or you don't have the attention to watch the cats to see if they are underfoot. So that door should close well behind you. If it's not shutting properly, you might want to use a little bit of WD-40 and get everything smooth again. I'm going to put a little bit more WD-40 on one of my screen doors. Now, if your cats do get out, are they microchipped? And if they are microchipped, do you know if your microchip is working? If you don't, this is something that you might want to check into. Next time you go to the vet, ask him to scan the cat and see if the microchip is still working. Another possibility is that you can take your cat to the closest humane society. They have scanners, and most of them will scan your cat to see if the chip is still working for you. Have you moved? And if you have moved, have you updated the information with the registration company? Because if the registration company doesn't have your current phone number and your current address and your current name and so forth, you need to update it. I recently canceled my home phone number and I have not contacted that company, so check mark on that. That's something I need to do. I have a full video on microchipping and I will put that link in the description below. Next on the list, wires and electrical cords. Go around to your house and see if any of the wires that you have all around the house have been chewed. I recently did a video on wire chewing because I found that my cats were chewing one of the cords on my computer, and I also found marks in other places. So it's very important for you to do that on a regular basis, and I think at least once a year you need to go around and check. And if your cats are chewing your wires, you should take some mitigating steps. I will include a link to that video on how to deal with wires and electrical cords in the description below. I recently did that in my house, so I do not have to check that. I think we are good. What about loose cords? Do you have any loose cords around your house? Have you brought anything in? Have you gotten new blinds? Is there anything new that might have loose cords that your cat could get tangled up in or possibly strangled in? I recently put up new blinds to cover some of my storage units, and they have a loose cord, and I have to fix that. That I should have done when I installed it, but I didn't. So check mark again. Something I need to fix. What about little things? Do you have little things lying around? Things like paper clips, tacks for your pegboard, whatever it is, little things that your cats like to play with and possibly move. When Skyfall was a kitten, she would love to move paper clips. I had this little bowl with paper clips at the desk, and the paper clips kept disappearing. Eventually I found them between the sofa cushions, and I know it was Skyfall because she loves those little things. And they can be put away in decorative containers. I like to use cigar boxes, but I also have little units with drawers that you can buy at any container store. The danger with these little things is that cats can try to eat them and possibly choke on them. I think I'm good with that. No check mark there. What about furniture? Do you have any new furniture that you should be aware of? For example, bookshelves that don't have a lot of depth. If your cat tries to climb in there, and my cats do try to get into the bookshelf behind the books, they think it's a nice little hidey hole from which to peek out at the world. But if the bookshelf is narrow and a little bit unstable, it could easily topple over on them and cause injury. So they need to be anchored at the back, just like you would anchor them for little kids. My bookshelves are good, but this organ is not. The top half of the organ is loose. It's not attached to the bottom half. And Mr. Muffin likes to climb up there once in a while. And I need to anchor that top of that organ to the wall. So that's another task. I'm going to have to put that on my checklist as something that needs to be done. Do you have recliners and sleeper sofas? Both of these have mechanisms on the inside that move. And if your cat or kitten is hiding in there or underneath one of those, you might be putting them in danger. Do they have access to getting underneath? Whenever I opened that sleeper sofa, I always checked to see where the cats were and made sure they were not in the room. Recliners are a little bit more difficult because with recliners, you're using them every day and all the time. You might want to consider taking a look at that and see if there's any way to block access to underneath the recliner, especially if you have kittens. I think I'm okay with the recliners and sleeper sofas. Check for any places that your cats can get trapped. When Mr. Muffin was a tiny kitten, he would like to go into my organ through the foot pedals. I saw him doing it once. And so at that time, I put blocks of wood on top of the pedals so that he would not have access. He would also like to get in behind the dishwasher. There was a little gap there that he could get through, and I had to put in a block of wood there and glue it to the cabinet so that he would not have access to getting in behind the dishwasher. This is particularly important, not just because they can get trapped behind these kinds of places, but because if in an emergency you need to get a hold of your cat quickly, you won't be able to do it if they are in one of these hiding places. If you have a fire and you want to get your cat out of the house quickly and the kitten is behind the dishwasher or in the organ, you're going to have a serious problem. You barely have time to get out of the house, much less trying to get your cat out of such a hiding place. And when cats are scared, those are exactly the types of places they will go. In my house, Skyfall has been trying to get into the access to the tub plumbing. I have latches there, but they are not very secure, so I'm going to have to change those. Okay, on my checklist, change the latches on the tub access. Okay, so let's talk about emergencies. Do you have emergency stickers? These are the kinds of stickers that you put on your window in case you are not home and there's an emergency. This way, your neighbors or emergency people can see that you have pets in the house. But these stickers tend to fade, their glue tends to wear away and they tend to fall off. So you need to replace them periodically. So I checked mine, it's totally faded and I'm going to have to replace it. Okay, another check mark for me. Speaking of that, have your neighbors changed? Do you have new neighbors? Do they know that you have cats? You're not always at home and there might be an emergency where it's useful for your neighbors to know that you have cats inside the house. My neighbors have not changed and they know I have cats, so no check mark on that. Another emergency issue is, do you know where your emergency vet clinic is? Do you have their number on your phone? I recently drove by where mine used to be and I saw that it was closed. They moved and I didn't know it. So this is a good time to check. Check to see if you know where they are, if they moved, if the phone number is still the same. And if they have moved, maybe it'd be useful for you to know how to get there. Plot the route to the emergency vet clinic just in case. You never know when you will need to get there very, very quickly. So check mark for me, I need to find the new emergency vet. Wow, my checklist is starting to get long on things that I need to do. Do you have a backup person who can take care of your cat in an emergency? Check with them to make sure if they're still on board with that. Keep them updated on any new changes. Make sure that they know that you now have 3 cats and not 2. If you have to go to the hospital, for example, on an emergency and you don't have time to brief them on everything, they should be briefed. So this is a good time to brief them on any changes with regards to your pets. Make sure that they have access to your house if they have to get in an emergency. I'm good with that. So backup person, no problem. I also suggest that you get a copy of this kind of cat first aid book. This will provide useful information on emergency things that you might need to do before you take your cat to the vet. Whenever there's a cat emergency, of course, the best thing to do is take your cat to the vet. But sometimes there are things that need to be done right away. So for example, if your cat is choking, what do? If you don't have this book, you might not know how to do. What's the best way to treat a cat that's choking? There's no time to go to the vet. You're going to have to deal with this almost immediately. So this is where this kind of book can help you very much. I'm going to put a link to where you can get this kind of book. There's several of them, but this one is put out by the American Red Cross, and it's called Cat First Aid. I have a book, so no check mark there for me. I will do a full review of this book soon. So this is a good opportunity to say that if you are finding value in this video, please like and subscribe. And if you want to see that review, please make sure that you get notifications. Lastly, where are your cat carriers? Are they an easy place to get access to? If you have them hidden away in some storage unit or in the garage or put away in the attic, this is not a good place for them. In an emergency, you will not be able to get to them. In addition, it's important that the cats become very familiar with the carriers and actually use them and sleep in them when they are not going anywhere. This way, it'll be easier for you to get them in the carrier in an emergency where you have to get them in there fast. They are not stressed out by that. Make sure you have one carrier per cat, or at least that all your cats will fit into the carriers that you have. If they're small cats or kittens, they could fit into a large carrier. You never know when you will have to transport all of them at the same time. Not all of my carriers are completely accessible, so I need to move one of them. So check mark on that. By the way, let me show you one of the things that I have done. I also have an art studio in my home, and there are paints and things like that that the cats should not get into. So I have built this barrier so that they don't get into that area. You might have seen the parts of this barrier in other videos that I've done. And in case you were wondering, what is it and why do I have it? It's not that I'm putting my cats in a cage. In fact, it's more like they're putting me in a cage because my studio is behind the wire. In any case, one of the cat carriers is inside that cage and is probably not the best place for it. So I just listed 16 things, and out of those 16, 11 of them have changed in my house. And I make cat videos. So I strongly recommend that you do this audit of your own, make a list of them. I'll put the list in the description below so you can make an easy copy. Go around your house and just check things off. Make sure your house is still safe. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, like, and all that. And I will see you in the next video.